Hi everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take a look at a rare configuration that's forming between Mercury, Saturn, and Mars. This configuration is called an enclosure. It's a temporary little period of time where a planet is caught or sandwiched between the aspectual rays from Saturn and Mars. This is a difficult aspect. It's pretty quick. It'll be gone by tomorrow at this time. But it is an important one to look at, as are the dynamics that are happening right now between Mercury and Saturn and Mercury and Mars overall. So that is what we are going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put the real-time clock up so that you can see it. And let's go ahead and outline this for you. So here's Mercury in Libra at 2539. And you're going to see that there is a square with Saturn at 2521. Kind of coming right behind, sending its rays right behind Mercury at 2531 of Libra. And you see Mars at 2646, just in front of Mercury in Libra. So the aspectual rays of the malefics sort of pin Mercury in. Now this lasts until tomorrow. It's a brief temporary condition. See, the moon right now is actually in the middle of it. So it's temporarily being broken apart by the moon, but that's going to pass pretty quickly here in the next couple of hours as the moon finally leaves Sagittarius. So we have this temporary condition for Mercury, and it is comprised of a square between Mercury and Saturn and an opposition between Mercury and Mars retrograde. So that's called an enclosure, and a malefic enclosure at that, because it's being sandwiched in by the two more challenging planets, Mars and Saturn. Now, all the planets were considered divine in ancient astrology, which means that all, again, if you've listened to any of the talks that I've been doing on 10 years of doing professional astrology, there's nothing that isn't divine in the astrological in the astrological sense of it. So when we look at Mars and Saturn, there's a functional way in which we call them malefics, meaning they represent things in the world that, people who are living, in the world tend to not like as much as, say, Jupiter or Venus, whose symbolism people tend to, or it tends to be associated with things that people prefer. But beyond whether people prefer Mars or Saturn or, Jupiter or Venus, the truth is that for the person who's living a spiritually reflective life, all of these planets are the messengers of a spiritual guidance program, you could say. They are all cosmic sensitivity trainers. They are all meaningful spiritual symbols. And really, in that sense, they're not really good or bad. But functionally speaking, we do live in consensus reality where, as I always like to say, I prefer eating a pie than getting someone throwing it in my face, right? Right. So generally speaking, this is considered to be a very difficult transit. But why is it difficult? Okay, so you have Mercury, the god of communication, associated with speech and writing and the messenger, and often a planet, especially in the sign of Libra, which is the temple of Venus, will tend to rule compromise, negotiation, peaceful resolution, and peaceful communication, pleasant or pleasing words. And the aim of Mercury in Libra is to compromise and to, create basically accord or harmony. And it especially wants to do so in mind, word, speech, etc. This is Mercury that's also interested in fairness, in balance, in justice, in moral integrity, Libra. And we're talking again in a kind of worldly sense. Now, when Mercury is hemmed in by the malefics, we thus get a few symbols in general that you have to watch for. So the first one is that, if Mercury likes peaceful communication right now, then Mars and Saturn are going to say, well, too bad. We're not going to give you a way of reaching compromise. There's going to be demands, and there's going to be nothing you can do. It's like trying to walk into, like a negotiation for a car or something like that. And the person knows that you need a car. And because they know that you need a car, and because they know that you don't have any options, your time is ticking out, time is running out before you actually need to be driving somewhere. they won't negotiate with you. They say, tough, pay up, and I'm going to make you pay full price. And actually, I might not even make you pay full price. I might make you pay more because I know that I have you, right? So Mercury's in a situation where, although Mercury is holding out the value of fairness and compromise and peaceful harmonizing, Mars and Saturn aren't likely to let that let that happen right now. Their agenda is going to be more about bottom lines, about power, about will and force, and that's not something that is gonna bode well for Mercury. However, on the other hand, let's say that, I mean, so many like court examples come to mind, right? Where you say to yourself, okay, let's say that the government or something says, look, if you turn state's evidence, or however they say that, if you are willing to testify against the higher up that is more of the source of the problem, and give up all of the info to us, give us the juicy details, then we'll spare you, and you'll get a very light sentencing. And where in other words, an element of compromise may be available to us right now, but there's also a sense of urgent, bottom line, no nonsense, entrapment to the situation. It's like you have no other choice. There's also a way in which people can take advantage of rules, that where people can be two-faced or hypocritical, or for example, where there's this movie that I remember I grew up with called A White Christmas. I don't know if any of you ever saw this, but it was with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, and they're like singing and dancing the whole movie. And my mom liked to watch it. First, I thought it was really boring when I was a kid, and I used to hate it. But then when I got older, I ended up appreciating it, and now we watch it every year. Anyway, in the beginning, the character played by Bing Crosby is saved in World War II by his friend Danny Kaye from a wall falling on top of him, but Danny Kaye sort of breaks his arm in the process. And for the rest of the movie, whenever Danny Kaye wants to get something done, wants his own way, he'll point to his arm and he'll be like, well, I did that favor for you back in the war. And every time Bing Crosby's like, oh man, how long am I going to have to keep paying this guy back? And there's, of course, it's a funny joke. It's an ongoing joke as a part of the movie, but it's that kind of situation where you feel beholden to someone or something, and it is strong arming you into making an agreement or a resolution or a decision or a compromise that you have to. So it is and there's a lot of cloak and dagger going on with all of this right now too. And there will continue to be, because Mercury is about to go into Scorpio, where it will then turn retrograde in Mars's deep water sign. And that's a mute sign where a lot of things start happening below the surface. So if you think about right now, what's happening? Well, this week in particular, that feeling of, having to address or talk about difficult things and finding that there's just no easy way of doing it. Try as you may to be politically savvy or politically correct or tactful in the way that you're communicating something. You may find that at the end of the day, the other person is they're just not wanting to hear it, and they just want to throw down. Or you find that you can't keep your patience, you can't keep your cool, and you blow a lid in trying to communicate or reach an agreement upon something. The other thing to watch for, of course, is going to be that that situation where someone coerces you to do something, where someone sort of says, do this or else. Be very careful of that, and be very careful of sort of guilting or shaming or manipulating or coercing others to do something for you. So those are all big, kind of the big scary possibilities of this transit. Mercury, the other thing that I would say about Mercury in general is that Mercury in Libra is going to say, hey, look, the rules, there are no exceptions. No one is an exception to like cosmic karmic law. And Mars and Saturn right now might be a little bit more like, that's nice and I don't care, right? So the other thing is that be careful because, well, I'll say two things. One is be careful that you don't fall into thinking that you're an exception to a process, a procedure, a method, a practice, an ethic, a protocol that is in place to establish some degree of fairness or objectivity. If you think that you're above it right now, you can get into trouble. The second thing is that if people are breaking the rules, right now, it's not going to help to throw your hands up in the air and go like, well, that's just not fair, right? It's like, yeah, not everything in life is fair. In this material realm, in our world, with our very limited sense of justice and very limited degree of understanding and insight into the nature of reality, things will be kind of unfair and things may appear very imbalanced. But we have to also trust that the dynamics of power and the constant the scales are always going up and down and being leveled out, karmically speaking. And so when people, really grossly abuse power or break rules or act in a manner that is unfair, one of the things that will entangle us further with such people or such dynamics will be if we start developing a grudge, a chip on our shoulder, a sense of being a victim, and of sort of throwing our hands up and saying, "Oh, the sky is falling, the sky is falling." The sage, in a sense, I'm thinking of the I Ching a lot as I'm talking right now. The sage, or the wise person, is the one who says, "You know what? I should pray for my enemies," because in time when people don't play fairly and break rules or coerce or manipulate or strong arm or bully. This transit would be one that you could easily see, for example, as an instance of cyberbullying, or as an instance where a rule that's in place doesn't protect who it's supposed to, or something like that. But you have to sit back and go, in time, I know that when people, when people sort of disturb the peace and blatantly disrespect rules that are meant to keep peace amongst diverse interests, that comes back to them. And I don't have to be the instrument of that karmic balancing through my judging, through some way in which I want to retaliate, through some way in which I try to morally shame other people. It's almost like if someone's going to break the rules in a very, very blatant way, well, that shows you probably that they're not worthy of your association, your time, your energy, etc. And you should pray for them, because the other thing is that, when people do that, it will come back to bite them later. And it comes back to bite us if we think, oh, it's my job to be the judge or the one who is exacting some kind of revenge, or, hey, you're going to break the rules now. Well, don't worry, I'll get you back later. It's kind of funny. Like last night I was thinking about this with my daughters. My daughter pushed my other daughter, and then my younger daughter was like upset, and my older daughter was like, oh no, I'm in trouble. And then she goes, push me back, you can push me, no, push me, like, please level the playing field or whatever. And like I wasn't like quite getting involved at this point, right? So, but here's what happened. So then my younger daughter, took the opportunity to clock the other one in the head with a toy, which like escalated everything. Like that was not an equal response. That just like escalated everything. So it was, and it was and I was like, and she was like, wait. And she was crying, and she was like, now I get to hit you on the head. And I was like, no, this stops right now. So that's the kind of thing that we have to be careful of, is that like when someone, and I mean, this is just classic, it's yoga, Buddhism, Christianity. It's a turn the other cheek moment right now. It's like, just don't, yeah, there might be a gross injustice or something like that, especially when someone's manipulating rules. It's a big one with Mercury and Libra. When someone is deliberately sort of trying to, manipulate or coerce a situation in a way that's underhanded, or in a way that's like, it's like an abuse of power, but like technically they're covered. There's some kind of loophole or something like that. Especially in those kinds of situations where there's an inappropriate leveraging of rules or like kind of laws or something like that. Again, it's going to be really tempting to be like, I'm going to get you back, or I'm going to seek revenge, or because you did this, I'm going to curse you, or something like that, right? So we have to step back and just go, I'm not the administrator of cosmic justice. So when I see something that's really unfair in the world and that happens around me, maybe I'll be called. I mean, there are people who are called to be a part of the administration of karmic justice. I guess that that does happen. I shouldn't say that there isn't a situation where we might not be called to, get into more of a fight or a struggle or something like that. But I think what I'm trying to say is that you have to be like, let people stew in their own problems. Don't, because you get further entangled in an aspect like this if you say, oh, so you're not going to play by the rules, you're going to take advantage, you're going to twist something. Well, I'll do so as well, because that would mean that because someone acts unfairly, that you are sort of it's going to become tit for tat, sort of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth mentality. That mentality right now is just, in this particular moment, my advice for everyone is don't get trapped in that. Don't be very careful not to get dragged down by that. Okay, so what else? I think that just about sums it up. I guess the other thing would be to just, there's sometimes there's no easy way to say something. There's no easy way to discuss something. This transit may also be very good when it comes to just approaching or dealing with something that's difficult, that you just have to face, you have to confront. And things aren't always clean and easy and nice. There is a sense in which, Mercury and Libra may not like Mars in Aries, but sometimes you need to be more direct, more assertive, and more aggressive in the way that you do something. I think we're looking for probably some degree of balance right now between the hard, rigid, contractive, and willful energies and aggressive energies of Saturn and Mars, and the sort of peaceful, compromising energy of Mercury and Libra. But it's not an easy one. And I anticipate that we could see some real explosions of like in the news, in the collective, especially in the political arena right now. I mean, obviously this tracks pretty well with everything that's happening with regard to, the rules and jockeying about hypocrisy and power, and how things have gone with appointing Supreme Court justices in the last 4 years, and this new appointment that's likely to happen, and all of that, right? So that's like you could write pages about how this particular archetypal configuration that has been forming as Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed syncs up. It's like picture perfect representation of all of it. But today I'm thinking more about the personal realm, and and just how tempting it might be right now to seek, especially when someone wrongs you or harms you or doesn't play by the rules, to seek some kind of to go vigilante on someone, to kind of to feel like we're exceptions somehow to the need to be kind and patient and balanced. So yeah, I'm finding it even stressful to like articulate my thoughts about this one. It's such a loaded moment right now. So I'd love to hear how you guys are doing and how what your thoughts are on this transit. It passes by tomorrow, but you'll be feeling the separation from Mars and Mercury for the next couple of days, like into the weekend. And that kind of sense of being hemmed in, stuck between a rock and a hard place for Mercury, who's trying to speak peace or create compromise. That real difficult spot will be with us basically today into tomorrow. But you may see the results of it carry out for the next few days into the weekend. So please share your stories with me. Tell me how you are tracking this transit or how you've been seeing it manifest. I'd love to hear your own stories. I've seen some examples of this in my own life. And like I said, it's so obvious in the US political news right now. It's when it's so like vivid like that, it's sort of like, wow, you know. Happy fall equinox in the meantime. I hope that you're all, maintaining sanity. And the autumn is a time of reaping what we've sown and of deep karmic, cosmic karmic judgments and balancing. And we have to trust what's happening too. We can't act like we always have the we don't have a full comprehensive understanding of why things happen the way that they do. It's really important to keep that in mind, especially in Libra season. And to trust the process of life, that the universe is fair. Things may not look or appear fair between us as people in human life on Earth, but in cosmic life, everything is held together by harmony, beauty, truth. So in the meantime, don't forget that my new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystics, starts on November 14th on Saturdays, meets for a year. It is 30 classes plus 12 guest lectures. We have live clients that come in after you learn the theory, history, philosophy, spiritual elements of ancient astrology. Then you get to see it applied with real people so that you can learn how to shape a practice for yourself if that's something that you're hoping to do. We also have breakout study sessions, lots of optional homework and quizzes and bonus material and a classroom forum. And I'm open to be answering your questions year round. It's a great program, optional certification at the end. There is need-based tuition if you need it, especially if you're struggling due to COVID. There's an early bird payment if you pay up front, save about $500 off. And then there's monthly payment plans too. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, info@nightlightastrology.com. Otherwise, check out the website, nightlightastrology.com. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.